not seen that for a while, have we? But yeah, the tyre is still doing it. I think that might be the most famous tyre in the world. We find ourselves in Fleet today and the weather is looking good and we've got quite a small job but quite an intricate job to do today. Let's have a look, shall we? Old stippled ensuite ceiling. The builder is pretty good here. Look, he's already covered up quite a lot, so one of the issues when doing something like this is all obviously the furniture and stuff. One of the messiest jobs is scraping all these pimples back, because what he's done already. Let's have a look here where the sun's not coming through. So he's taken all the high points off, which is well handy because that is probably the messiest part of dealing with something like this. So all we need to do is PVA and plaster it, but that's easier said than done because let's have a look at this old Velux window. So up here, look, it's quite a nasty rounded off edge, and then if we come to this side, look, it doesn't quite meet up, so we're going to have to manipulate the beads a little bit. And not only that, it's tipping down this way, so we're probably, you know, we're going to have to go with the frame here and eye it in so it looks nice. I think what I'm probably going to do, and it is quite handy to do that, and it's pretty much got a bend on it already, is curl this round a little bit more and sweep it round. It's a little bit easier on the eye. It takes like sort of like a line out of it. Whereas before, if you have a straight line here, here's a panel and here's a panel. When you put a curve on it like that, the whole panel becomes one. And like I say, it's just a little bit more simple on the eye. And considering it's such a small room, it wouldn't hurt to do that. So it will turn into two panels, bang and bang, pretty much with this little break on there rather than 1, 2, 3, 4, you know. So without further ado, let's get on and do it. Oh, he's got me some, I've got to screw these up into there. See, he's put these little stitches in, little bits of wood, and then screwed up through the plasterboard to allow us to get these bits up in there. Right, let's get on with it, shall we? Okay, so we got these up in there. Look, it's just a case of screwing up with your drill driver or whatever. Now I'm turning my attention to these beads, and there's a few different ways. It's quite precarious getting a fix on this. So we've used a normal angle bead, but I haven't other than this. We've got quite a bit of depth up there, if you can see, and quite a bit of depth there, but we're going to curl that round a little bit. What I was more concerned about was getting this bead to level up with that frame, which it has done quite nicely. So now I'm going to get these sides on there. So if you don't know, to cut these beads, we are using these tin snips, which slide through quite nicely, like so. If you're not doing it with one hand and do it a little bit inaccurately, but don't worry, I've cut it a little bit long and I'm going to hold it up. And then we are using a stapler to get some staples in, as you can see, to hold it in place for the moment. Now you can stick the beads up, you can hammer felt nails into them, you can do all sorts of things, but I, more often than not, am using the stapler. Got a couple of little lines to show you where the staple goes if you need to get it through the holes, but sometimes your stapler is good enough and the staples are strong enough to actually go through the actual bead like it has done there, look, and that really does hold it perfectly still. One thing to note is when you are doing these sort of beadings, look, I've left a little bit of overhang here for taking the next bead here and here, same as here, so that you have got room to get these corners absolutely perfect. That's what I tend to do. I kind of measure it a little bit long, then I hold the bead up so it's a little bit long, and I'll get my snips. What have I done with them? Out of the road for that. Get the snips as I'm holding the bead up, and then I'll trim it, you know, perfectly. So sometimes you can make mistakes with measuring when it comes down to single millimeters, etc. So I like to hold it in position and see where I'm cutting it. Also as well, I always cut them back at a little bit of an angle, so it gives you a little bit of move. So here, like, it could throw you off, because if this was the machine edge, if that was like square there, it could be hitting the back of this and pulling it off a little bit. So yeah, it just allows you to get into the corners a little bit sharper, I find. Okay, so these beads are all up. It took a full piece. And we're all looking pretty good in the corners and everything like that. Just a word of warning, because I'm always snipping them down and getting it closer and closer so I can get it absolutely perfect. Get a lot of these little bits. Don't throw them on the floor, because if you kneel on them and it goes in your knee, you're not going to enjoy that at all. I put them on the side there for a minute, and when I get a bag, they'll go straight in there. But yeah, they're quite dangerous, nasty, sharp little things. Okay, so these horrible old units are being changed, and they were very difficult to get out of there. It works on this mechanism quite often. They've got a spring mechanism where the arms are on springs, and you need to be careful removing them, because as you pull them out, the little spring mechanism activates and it hit the end of your thumb like a mouse trap, and you won't like that. But yeah, these are a real pain to get out of there, and of course we've damaged the hole. This is why I've had to put some scrim around there to try and get that to, you know, round off again. But it's better to damage this now before it's plastered rather than after. As you can see, I've got some staples in there as well, but it's just a small amount of scrim, and I just need it to hold that edge a little bit better. But yeah, they were a real pain getting them out. And also up here, look, we put some scrim tapes all over there, and I've doubled that up with staples as well. Normally you don't have to put staples and scrim like that, but because we're going over the texture surface and this is a little bit shy already, there's going to be quite a bit of wet weight on there, so it does have the possibility it will pull the scrim whilst the plaster is wet off the ceiling, so it's not going to hurt. Backing these up with staples and stop that from happening. Okay, so now we've got pretty much all our dry work out the way with dry beads, you know, just scrim and stuff like that, so now it's time to get some wet stuff going on. Okay, here's our PVA tub, as we need to prime up this painted surface. This has actually got a little bit of a mix of SBR in it, because that's just what happened the other day, so it's not going to hurt things, but we do need to be very careful with it and not drip it all down the walls and stuff. Make sure the roller's not full of the liquid, and on it goes. So we used PVA with a little bit of SBR in it. Not that I mixed that on purpose, but I just had some SBR. We used SBR the other day. As a lot of people, plasterers, argue about what the best primer is, I tend to use PVA more often than not. You can use SBR, and you can also get a selection of different grits that you can get on the market these days. So it's whatever you prefer. They all have their pros and cons, to be honest with you. I find PVA the most versatile out of all of them. Okay, so all this priming agent is now kind of like tacky to touch dry, so it's at its ideal state to be plastered on. Okay, so we've got the multi-finish here, and just by hand with my bucket trowel, I've just knocked up a little bit. That's quite stiff, because we want to start forming this curve, and we need to take the weight out of the very apex of the curve, because otherwise if you try to go over it your first coat, you're going to get a little bit of bulge in it where it starts sagging under its own weight, and it kind of goes the reverse way. You'll get it to go here, and then it'll start to bulge out and then pull back in. So we're going to get a tight cut over it like that, just to start forming the curve, and then when we put our first coat over, it won't sag so much. We've got a little bit of building up here to do as well, so we'll see where we get with that. There we go, and as you can see, we don't need loads and loads on there. We just need to take that bite out of that very, very apex part, the triangle part. The thing that's probably best to note in here is, because we've got this bead here, we need this curve here at this point to finish, or at least line up perfectly with this bit of bead here. So I've come on and made sure I could hit that bead. So that's the point of the curl that comes around. If it was out too deep, obviously we'd have to pull it in here. So as you can see, it is a little bit tricky to line it up for that. And also we're very limited on our movements because of these wires coming out, and look, they're hardwired in, they don't unclip. So yeah, it's very limited with your trowel movements, what you can do. I've also put a little bit over these screws here just to start holding them still, same as those ones up there. Now we've got this left in the bucket. But don't worry, we're not going to throw that away, we're going to leave that in there, and we're going to use the properties of that to speed up the next gauge, our first coat, when we come around to start knocking it up, which shouldn't be too long. So all we need to do now is just let this stiffen up, give it a few moments, and then we'll start applying our first coat of plaster. Yes, I am using the 20x5 in here. This is all picked up really nicely and is holding itself, and we've knocked up some plaster, as you can see, and I'm always knocking it up stiff anyway, but even stiffer than that because I want to make it a bit easier to control, and I want to get over this depth. So let's get this on the ceiling. Okay, so we're pretty much all on and flattened in. This ceiling is all over the place, I must say. It's obviously with some of the architects is grinning through where it's so it's bowing down terribly there. There's a few little pimples and stuff. And here I have to come around this way. I can't use that bead because remember we've got a curl on it, so I've got to keep that curl on there. So as you can see here, as the light's coming through, we've got all this pimpling, it's a bleed through. No matter how much is stiff you knock up your multi, that's always going to happen until that starts picking up a little bit and we can get the second coat over that and it won't come through anymore. There's a few ways of tackling this. Some people like to throw a bit of hard wall bonding, the backing coat in with the first coat of multi, whatever. Gives it a little bit more body and allows you to be able to take that out maybe a little bit quicker or something. I used to do that, I haven't done it for quite a while. I tend to prefer this method, to be honest with you. I'm using that large trowel, maybe that is why I don't tend to do that. So yeah, I tend to knock up the multi just a little bit stiffer. Give it a flatten, maybe 2 flattens, and just let it pick up. Yeah, there you go. Always more than one way to skin a cat, as they say. So we are getting there. I'm switching to the Rafina Flex 2. It's a bit more forgiving and it's going to really help us out on these curves. This is the residue we're getting out at the moment. Almost there, see it's very slimy, there's no granules in it. It's not much good for anything at the moment. That's what you call fat, and we're getting quite a bit out of it still, but when that reduces right down, that's when we know the ceiling is pretty much complete. So there we go, we are finished in here. Just need to get all tidied up. Give the top a little sponge. I've brushed it in, but there's still some residue coming down the tiles a little bit, so we'll sort that out. But yeah, oh, I've got to clean this bead off that. Hold on. I'll do that in a tick. Yeah, that looks better, doesn't it? So yeah, see if we can get you down here so you can have a good look at the ceiling. So yeah, quite tricky. Reason being, I've got to clean this off as well. I've got to clean this off. I'm going to get my little pointy trowel in there and just a tick. It's just because there's so much paint on there, it was really difficult to try and keep this clean, so I'm going to scrape it back now. But yeah, having this bead sit halfway on a curve was the tricky bit. Try and get that to all line up like that. There we go, that's much better. And there's lots of this broken paint all over it. It's made it very difficult to keep that clean and tape up. I prefer if it's temporarily a bit dirty rather than try and tape it, because sometimes when it's as bad as that, you pull the tape off, you pull a big chunk of plaster off, so you know, it's all going to need sanding and painting anyway, so a little bit of plaster residue on there isn't really going to hurt anybody. Very, very undulated. But we've cleaned it up. There we go, see the light on that. showing us the curve there. Look, that's pretty good, isn't it? Nice consistent curve all the way. So as you can see, we've got this rather awkward ceiling and we need to put a curve on it and it's like blah 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 blah. No, it's not Groundhog Day. This is the same job, same house, just a different bathroom. There's the one we did yesterday and it's drying out very quickly indeed. We need to see all this again. Okay, let's have a look. So we've got kind of like the same deal again. Look how wonky this reveal is. Look at that. Last time we managed to get this to meet up to this on that other ceiling, but look, I don't think that's going to happen because we're going to have to pull that stop bead. Sorry, angle bead. So that angle bead is going to come down to about there, and this one, and it's going to make that massive. So that's a little bit more difficult. I think we're going to have to keep this curled. And as you can see, look, it's here the internal's coming in, but here it's like sagging out and going in the opposite way. That is nasty, isn't it? Look at it. So that this bit's hanging out. Can you see that? It's actually curling the wrong way. That bit there, and then it's not too bad against the frame, but within one here there's less of a curve, so there's only so much you can do on things like that. Okay, it's actually New Tool Friday. My old Stanley Fat Max stapler broke. The little spring went inside there, inside the thing that and then it stopped pushing the staples down. So I got the builder guy here because I borrowed his DeWalt one, and I was like, actually I quite like it, and I've got to admit, compared to the Fat Max one, this feels like a proper unit. It feels heavy, it feels sturdy. This is quite a bit wider, and on the Fat Max, although it did have a screw for it, I was always a bit annoyed that I didn't have this little clip on there so you could clip it on your belt, because quite often that does come in handy, especially when you're using a stapler. So yeah, the DeWalt one, see how it does. I mean, it's got a little bit more power as well than the Fat Max one. It was easily banging a staple through the bead, but it also comes down to the quality of staples as well. If you buy really cheap staples, then they will crumple up on the bead because they just haven't got the strength to get through, and you have to get the staple through the holes that are already formed in the bead. But this thing should bang the staples straight through the bead no matter where you go, and it's, if you do get it to go through the bead and not through one of the or the original holes, it does hold it even more sturdy. So yeah, 36 quid. Okay, just with this part of the snips here, look, just giving that a bit of a tap, because that was a really nasty iron point. And you can see there that they've actually just finished that just to the edge of the plasterboard. There's no bead or anything on there at all. Yeah, this bit was really kicking down and it was curling the bead round, so we need to remedy that as best we can. Okay, so that bead finishes like that there. We can't come up to this, and this side's even worse with that. So what we're going to have to do is leave this bead with the plaster and come out and join these up on the actual curve. It would be easier if we could do one side before the other, because then it gives us a hard edge, but it looks like we're going to have to work with a live edge to get this up. Also, look, let's have a look at this. Look, the whole thing is curling right round that depth there. We're going to have to curl this whole thing. coming at it consistently, we're not going to get a trail across there this way. Coming at it consistently, we need to be careful not to get ripples in it, like going this way, like so, like that, because the light coming in will catch them. So it's going to be a bit of messing around and making sure we get this to look pretty good. Right, so we've got to get these original spotlights down. Look how tight that is. These are the ones with the springs on them. I'll show you what I mean. I need 2 hands, I can't film it. Oh, I might be able to. You've got to get hold of those springs. There's one on the other side as well, I've got my hand on it. And then you can release it. Otherwise, if you don't do that and it comes out and catches your finger, like a mouse trap, look, really, you won't like that. Okay, so look, our scrim tapes are up, our beads are up, everything's all covered up. It's very, very tight in here. At one point, look, I need to get in the shower. I'm not going to be able to get in there with my hawk and that and get up there as well. It's all very, very fiddly. You need really slow, dedicated movements to make sure this all stays cool. I am going to initially be putting on with the 20x5 because it's such a big trowel. I can use it like a rule for the first coat, and then I'll probably drop down to something smaller to put the tight coat on, the second coat. Scrims are up. Next thing we need to do is get some sort of priming agent on this painted surface, which in this case is going to be PVA with a little bit of SBR mixed into it. Okay, let's have a look at this quickly. So I'm starting to form this curve. Okay, I'm not too worried about this so much. I can make that up and get it pretty good. But look, see here, now I've had to come away and it's difficult for me to do this and record. It's such a tight area. But I've come and got a nice consistent curve this way with this large trowel, okay? Let's see if we can take that little line out. And I'm just starting to catch this part of this bead. So now I'm quite happy there's quite a nice curve there. Now what I'm going to do here, rest my trowel on this edge here and on this bead, let's see. And then there, what we're going to do is cut back and create that little curve round. So you can see here where the bead is, and we're about to leave the bead, see the bead there? We're about to leave the bead and create our own little line, and then come back and join the bead back down here. Now we're going to leave that alone, and get that across both sides. Obviously I need to do the same on that side, but we need to leave that alone and let that pick up. So we started to form the angle and the curve, the edge that we need. So now we got the weight taken out of that apex of that where we need to put the curve. That's all sorted out and in shape. We need to let this just pick up now. And then when we do come to knock up for the main body again, we got some dirty water ready to go from when we put the whole lot on. Check this out. I didn't know if I could get you a decent shot in there, but look, I've fired it into the mirror and then you can see the ceiling on my tripod. Oh. Up there for thinking, down there for dancing, as they say. I don't know, is it montage time? Can we fit a little one in? Don't know, it's such a small room. Let's see. turn back round and flatten it in. Doing little jobs like this, I kind of feel like I should have put a really tight sort of catsuit on. It reminds me of like those films when somebody's got like dodge in between the laser beams and stuff like that. I mean, Catherine Zeta-Jones, I saw a clip of her doing it recently in an old film, I can't remember what it was called, but yeah, contorting yourself and voguing over the laser beams and not letting the alarms off. That's what it feels like anyhow. I should have worn my catsuit. Anyway, let's get back on and flatten this in. One good thing, we knocked up exactly the right amount of plaster for what we needed, so let's do that again. Let's Catherine Zeta-Jones Vogue all over this thing. First coat, first flatten. Like always, I've let this go a little bit further and firm up so that the pattern doesn't bleed through, and we are going to put the second coat on now. I've mixed up again, quite stiff, and this time we've got rid of the 20 by 5. I've done what I can with it in here to try and straighten things up because I haven't mentioned yet, but the other one was exactly the same. It's all over the place, this thing, and bulging and stuff. So that 20 by 5, putting it on and flattening it in, has got a decent shape to it now. Now I'm going to drop down to this flexible Rafina Flex 2 to actually put the second coat on, and I'll stick with that for the remainder of the day. Don't eat the plaster. So there we go, that's what we all come to see, and that's what that angle looks like now. We did struggle on the bead there a little bit. See, I've had to come away from it slightly. Get around here, I can't move like that. And on this one as well, look, I've had to roll away from the bead a little bit, but it's looking pretty good, I think. Nice consistent curve. I've got to sponge all this down, get all this plastic out of it and just get it completely cleaned up. But yeah, that was quite tricky, I must admit. But yeah, once that's cleaned up. Alright guys, it's quite noisy in here. Let's go down to the beauty room, shall we? I think I might be dead. So yeah, guys, thanks for watching that video. It was just another one of those. Yeah, it was a really awkward one, wasn't it? 2 days. So yeah, that's what it was. Next week we are back, and I've got to remedy some bad plastering. So I'm quite looking forward to filming that one, to be honest with you. We got to mess around with some bits and pieces, and I have been to view the job, and it is pretty bad plastering, to be honest with you. I'm going away for the weekend. I'm not sure when I'm going to get this up. I might get it up for Sunday. It's a bank holiday weekend. Everybody's doing stuff, isn't it? So like people are, you know, away. I don't know, with the YouTube views and everything, is it worth putting something up? I don't know. I will get it up. I'm kind of thinking like Sunday, so we'll do that. But yeah, so many people do things on the bank holiday. I'm going camping again, camping in Wallingford. Down by the Thames, a really nice little campsite, we know. But we kind of lucked out again with the weather, British weather on the bank holiday. It's been lovely through the weeks and stuff, and then you get to a bank holiday, because we did it last time and the weather really dropped, and this weekend apparently it's dropping. But it could be worse. I've heard reports that some friends of mine have gone down to Cornwall, and normally get right down the bottom of Cornwall from here where we are, just into the southeast, 5.5 hours drive, but the roads converge, the A roads converge after the Bodmin Moor, is it? And then that's where the traffic starts. Anyway, they left like really early this morning, and 7.5 hours in, they're still not there. But then what do you expect for a bank holiday if you're going to Cornwall? Guys, thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all that. And don't forget, there is also a Facebook group if you want more interaction with me and other plasterers. If you want to get some advice, if you want to give some advice, Facebook group is called Plaster Master Smurf 74. I've kind of tried to change it to be Master Smurf 74 Plastering, so it's not so pretentious, but I haven't worked out how to change it on Facebook. So the channel name here on YouTube, gets very complicated, doesn't it, is Master Smurf 74 Plastering. But if you come to Facebook, it's Plaster Master Smurf 74. So just be aware of that. Alright guys, again, thank you very much for watching the videos, and all the lovely comments I've been getting. Yeah, it's all good, it's all good. I'll see you on the next video, and I'm sure it won't be too long indeed. Okay, see you soon, bye bye.